And everybody, please welcome Olis from the Bronx Big Book Study.
Olis, you're muted.
You're still muted.
Hi, family. My name is Olis, and I'm a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you so much, Joe, for the invitation, and what a great meeting. I love that reading, and I've got so much to share about where I am. My sobriety date's May 21st, 1987. My home group is the Bronx Big Book Study. I have a sponsor. I have people that I take through the work, and I'm on the road of happy destiny. I'm not on the road to it. I'm on the road of it, because and the difference between of and to is important, because I'm not heading anywhere. I'm already where I'm supposed to be. Bill Wilson wrote this, but the thing that I often have to remind myself, a couple of things that I want to say to contextualize what I have to share. One is that I can only hear something at my current level of understanding. I am certain that I heard a lot of things that are news to me today, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago. But I couldn't really hear it because my understanding wasn't there. And so I'm hoping that what I can share about my journey and about my current level of emotional sobriety will have appeal to people, along a broad spectrum, whether you're brand new or you've been here and you were here when I got here. And if you were here when I got here, thank you for having the light on for me. Thank you for demonstrating that Alcoholics Anonymous indeed and in fact work. For the people who are brand new, I want to tell you this. You never have to feel this way again. Never. You never have to drink again. In fact, I think emotional sobriety for me is about less of me seeking out things outside of me to fill my internal needs. I took my first drink at 4 years old. And when I look back, which is the pandemic gave me great time to do that. I didn't realize that my first drink was also the first memory of being alone with my mom. How profound is that, right? And at 8, I decided scotch was a good idea. Seemed like a good idea. I don't know what the other 3rd graders were doing when I look back. I was drinking scotch though. And at 13, I had my first major drunk in a bar. So at 26, when I got here, I was surrendered. Let me tell you what I mean by that. In all the years that I've been here, I've never met anybody that came into Alcoholics Anonymous on the wings of victory. Never. I've never met anybody that came in and was like, oh my God, life is swinging my way. I've got all the money. I've got great relationships. My career is great. My home life is great. It's all great. Let me get sober. That I never. And the book talks about how we cross the invisible line, right? We probably could have stopped while there was still yet time, but we didn't want to because we were having a good time. And so when I looked up, I was well across the line. And what I can tell you is that my soul was on fire when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I removed the spotlight. I'm sorry. I can't stand to look at me like that. So sorry. So I want to talk about where I am today, and then I'm going to tell you some things practically about where I am and how I'm responding to it emotionally. But before I do that, I want to go through the notes that I took during the reading. And I really do love that essay. So the way that Bill opens the essay is he talks about old timers, right? And I think the reason that he begins talking about old timers is because if, and their definition of an old timer was different, right? Bill got sober December of 1934, and then he died in 71, right? So, you can count that, right? And so, when Bill wrote the book, he's like 3.5 years sober. And when you read the book, they talk about people with substantial sobriety, 4 years, 3 years, right? And so the notion of what an old timer is, we should contextualize that. But I think that the new people sometimes are just focused on getting their legs up underneath them. And I think that while that's great, there's something to be said for understanding what getting emotionally sober will do to help you get your legs up underneath you. He talked about it is humility and balance. I love that. I do. When I'm out of balance, 100% of the time, it's because I'm lacking humility. Let me give you an example. So I've come to understand, believe that there are multiple dimensions in the world, and that I'm aware of 2 of them. I'm aware of the material human dimension, the physical dimension, the dimension of space and time and the rules and right and wrong. And there's another dimension, the dimension of the spiritual world, where 1 and 1 isn't always 2. Now, I kind of like the human material dimension. Oh man, I got an Excel spreadsheet. I got a to-do plan. Oh man, I'm telling you, I got a clipboard. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get it done. And I tend to do that. Now I do it in this kind of this way where I'm always talking to God. I try to be in ceaseless prayer. But nonetheless, in my spiritual practice where I book in my day, that at night I ask God, how did I do? And in the morning, I ask God to help me do better, and I review my day. I review my day by looking at my to-do list. I review my day by looking at my calendar. There's things to be done. Let's get it done. And I try to go through the day with God doing that. And recently I had this experience, right, about emotional sobriety that helped me see more clearly the distinction between the 2 realms that I can live in, the material realm and the spiritual realm. So I go to Oakland, California, and I am there to visit a friend, but also I get there and there's been a cyclone and there's been like weeks of rain and there's water intrusion on one of my properties. I'm in there wet vacuuming up an active intrusion of water. That's how crazy I am. I'm literally in there vacuuming the water up into the wet vac. And I'm like, it keeps being here. Yeah, boo-boo, because it's coming in, right? It's like trying to mop up the ocean. But that's my mind. Like, I've got a solution, right? And as I'm going through this process, I have this discussion with someone, and they broke what I understand the rules to be. And when I talked to other people, they agreed with me. The person overstepped and the person broke the rules of decorum, right? I have a contractor. The contractor has agreed to do some work for me, and the work needs to be expanded. And the tenant goes to the contractor and renegotiates how the work is going to happen. Excuse me, sir? Sir, excuse me, sir? And I'm rightfully, justifiably pissed. In the material world, in the human world, in the 1 and 1 is 2 world, I'm right. But in the spiritual realm, I'm wrong. Let me tell you why I'm wrong. Because the hand of God is in my life. And if you're in one of these Hollywood squares, even if it's day 0, the hand of God is in your life too. If you've been struck sober and you've been brought not just to Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Because Alcoholics Anonymous, it's like the bar. You can have light beer, you can have 151 proof. I told you I was drinking scotch in the 3rd grade. So what am I going to do with a light beer recovery? I need hardcore recovery. And so if you're in this meeting, and if you go to literature meetings, and if you go to meetings where people are talking about the real deal, not can I not drink, not just can I be abstinence from alcohol, but can I be emotionally mature and sober? That's the deal. That to me is a different kind of recovery. And if I want that kind of recovery, then it doesn't matter that I'm right in the 1 and 1 is 2 world. It matters how I am in the spiritual realm. So the hand of God is in my life. When I tell you that I come from shenanigans and foolery, that's what I want to tell you. I come from shenanigans and foolery. And I actually own a house that I'm renting to someone else and live in another house that I own. I mean, the hand of God is in my life. I'm relatively healthy. I'm relatively sane. I have all my teeth. For 62, I'm not hard on the eyes for 62. Like I'm really doing well overall, right? And I'm not saying any of that to be arrogant. I'm trying to stand back from myself and separate myself from me and look at myself objectively. What are the gifts that I'm standing in? See, the thing that's hard to see is yourself. So I got mad when the tenant went and talked to the contractor. And I was so disturbed. Here's a pro tip for all of y'all. The question is not why I'm disturbed, because why I'm disturbed is about you. The question is, why am I disturbable? Because that's about me. Real pro tip. In the resentment inventory, the seldom talked about 3rd column, where I have to write out the sentence, 7 of them, about how I'm affected. My self-esteem, my pride, my ambition, my security, my personal relations, my sexual relations, which is just gender, my pocketbook. Don't skip pocketbook. Pocketbook's always in there somewhere. I'm spending money to feel better about myself. I didn't go get some money I could have got because I'm laying on the couch worried about you. The pocketbook's in there. And not only do I have to write the 7 sentences, after I write the sentence, I have to ask myself, what am I afraid of here? It's always the opposite of what I've written down. You know, let's take the tenant example. I'm a good homeowner, and I deserve for people to get out of my way and allow me to do what I need to do to protect my property and give them a good place to live. What's my fear? I'm not a good owner, and people are not going to get out of the way. Like that's it. And you go through all of them, and you know what that tells you? Not why you're disturbed. It tells you why you're disturbable. And that's where emotional growth is. And emotional growth leads for me to emotional sobriety, because then I'm not blaming you. See, as long as I'm blaming you, talking about why I'm disturbable, not why I'm disturbed, as long as I'm talking about why I'm disturbed, I'm blaming you. It's your fault. This is what you did. This is what you said. This is how you acted. As long as I'm doing that, I'm trapped. I'm a victim of you. And victims don't recover. It has not been my experience that being under the heel of someone else is freedom. That's not been my experience. And so if I really want to be free, then I have to move out of the 1 and 1 is 2 world, the material world, the human world. I'm right. These are the rules. How dare you? You're out of pocket. I have to move out of that world and move into the spiritual world. And when I do that, it's amazing. I transcend the details of the current circumstance that have annoyed me. and I'm able to see things in a bigger, broader light. What is the bigger, broader light? The hand of God is in my life. It's amazing that I'm in a position to have a house, to have a tenant who pays their rent, to have the money to hire a contractor, to have the money to rent a wet driver. Like, all of it's amazing. All of it's amazing. And when I can go to that elevation, when I can pull up out of the fray and go to that place, then the only thing for me to do is have gratitude. And in that gratitude, the only thing that I can do is not judge other people, not be mad at other people, not move emotionally and spiritually in my thought, which is, you're an idiot, sir. That's my thought. I can transcend that to a place of, how do I create a dynamic and a dialogue with another soul that shines onto them the extraordinary gifts that God has given me? How do I get there? I have to understand that the gifts that I've been given are not for me. The gifts that I've been given are designed to make me useful. Going back to the notes that I took, Bill talks about life isn't perfect, but life's a gift. Even on a bad day, even when things don't swing my way, life is extraordinary. Here's how I say it. Every day above ground is a good day. Every day above ground. Do you know in the world, well, at least on this planet, how many people didn't wake up in this realm this morning? Didn't wake up in their right mind? Didn't come to fully? Like, every day is a gift. So when I stop wanting it to be what I want it to be, and I can accept it for what it is, there is joy. There is freedom. There is emotional sobriety. The book tells me this over and over and over again. And the thing that's funny, listening to this essay that Bill has written, is that he's saying things that I thought he knew. When you read the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, some of the things he says in the letter, he said in the book. He said it in the book. Let me give you an example. Working with others. You know what he says in working with others? You can go any place, to any sordid place on earth, as long as you're going, not to see what you can get, but to see what you can give. That passage tells me that when I remove myself from the center of it, what's in it for me? Who's going to be there? How am I going to look? What's it going to be? Me. When I remove that and I begin to think about, when I go, who can I serve? I'm safe and protected. So life doesn't have to be perfect for me to understand that life is a gift. He talked about how painful it is to be emotionally immature. Right? Let's go back to the example. I didn't understand it, but it's emotionally immature to expect someone to be grateful for a gift that maybe they don't understand. I don't know, this is for somebody. You ever give somebody something and then you're mad because they don't respond the way that you think that they should? They're not sufficiently grateful for your generosity. You ever had that experience? Yeah. And I'm using this not literally, so I don't mean this in any way offensive. Pearl before swine. When I throw a pearl before a swine, the swine's not like, oh my God, what a lovely pearl. Is that a sea pearl? Like, what is that? No. People are not always where I am, where you are. Sometimes I'm the swan in the story, right? That sometimes I don't understand the gifts that have been given to me from God. So then how am I going to turn around and be mad at you for not understanding the gift that I think I'm giving you? That's immature. And in that immaturity, I will be in pain. You know, he goes on and he talks about this merry-go-round, right? Man, I've been on the merry-go-round. Let me tell you what the merry-go-round of my life is. Things are great, things are bad, things are great, things are bad, things are great, things are bad. And you know when they're bad? When it don't swing my way. You know when they're great? When it swings my way. But here's the thing, man, stick around. Sometimes the things I really want that I get, worst thing that ever happened to me. Sometimes the things I think I'm going to die without that I don't get, best thing that ever happened to me. I believe that that's why in the third step, when we surrender, we ask God, I offer myself to you, God, to do two things, to build something with me and to do something with me. Two separate things, build and do. And then I go on and I say, remove my difficulties. Not because I deserve that, but because if you do, I will bear witness to other people that your way is the way. You are the light. And then there's no amen at the end of that prayer. I'm opening a promise, but then I got to do the work. And the book says at once, because I'm offering myself to God to build with me and do with me, and I don't know nothing about me. I haven't even done an inventory. I'm a warehouse full of things, and I don't know what they are. Empty boxes, outdated equipment, broken, damaged things. And I do 4, and I do 5. And then at 6, I'm like, hey, these things are objectionable, God. My way of living in the world is objectionable. My thinking, my understanding, objectionable. And then in 7, I close the deal I opened. You know, a guy came to the Bronx a couple months ago and said, if I could really surrender in 3, it'd be a 3-step program. Whew, that hit me. Right. I don't really surrender in 3. I open the deal, but then I got to do the work. And then in 7, I go back and I close the agreement. And then in 7, I say something different. I don't say, relieve me of the bondage of self. That's not what I say. I say that in 3. But when I mature through 4, 5, 6, and 6, I go back to God in 7 and I say, I don't know what's good and bad. Just have all of me. Just have all of me. I still have some defects that I've had the whole time. You know, Bobby out of Minnesota has this great talk on 6 and 7. And he's like, you ain't got no defects. The defect is new. You them same defects you done been had. That's been my experience. Now they're less in the front seat. They're less running the show. They're less dominating me. They're less causing me to burn my life down. I'm less likely to punch you in the throat. I'm just less likely to move in it. But they're there waiting for me to not be connected to God so they can take over. They're just lurking. That's my experience. But when I begin to see that I don't know what's best for me, I can get off the merry-go-round, because I'm only on the merry-go-round because I think I know what's best. I'm on the merry-go-round because I'm not getting what I want. But I get off the merry-go-round when I surrender to God and say, I don't know what's best. You tell me. So, a real willingness he talks about in all of our affairs. I have to say this. For a couple decades, I thought that practicing the principles in all of my affairs meant that every place I went, I was nice to people. I was nice in the supermarket. I was nice at the business meeting. Ooh, that's hard. I just was nice everywhere, right? And it turns out that's not my current understanding. It turns out that's not how I now understand the work. When I'm disturbed, practicing the principles in all of my affairs means I go back to column 3. It means something different to me now. It doesn't mean I'm nice. It means that I pick up the tools. Am I self-supporting through my own contributions all the time in every circumstance? Right? or am I trying to get something for nothing? Right? Am I coming into a situation anywhere in my life and I want everything, but I don't want to do nothing? Am I living like that? To me, that's what it means now. He talked about how peace evades us, right? That this false aspirations, these phony aspirations, these fake, like, man, I'm not going to get as far as I had anticipated. At the beginning of Bill's story, the version that we know, right at the first page, he's like, applause and money my way. I'm going to prove to the world that I'm important. And all of that I have come to understand is living my life looking for internal peace and satisfaction, joy and happiness, personal internal fulfillment based on external things. What you think of me, that you think I'm important, that you applauded, that I got paid. That's what Bill talks about at the beginning of his story. This before he bottoms out. This before he's stealing money out of Lois' purse, right? That it's that grandiosity, that standing in the middle of my life and looking around and expecting you to fulfill me. When you applaud, I feel good. When you don't applaud, I feel bad. That, my friends, is purgatory for me. That, my friends, is the definition of emotional insobriety, right? I can't be sober like that. And so I have to set aside these phony aspirations, these things that I'm aspiring to that I think will make me feel good enough. A first step problem. My first step problem has 3 parts. The 3 parts of my first step problem are when I drink, I get thirsty. I want that first drink, but I want the second more. I want the third more, the 5th one, I'll fight you. The second part of my first step problem is that there's a voice in my head and it sounds like me and she's a liar. If you want to know what I'm talking about, read the chapter more about alcoholism, which could be called the state of mind that precedes a relapse, right? I'm the jaywalker. I keep running out in traffic thinking I'm not going to get hit. I swear to you that the carpet slipper dude in the book has kept me sober. Kept me sober. Because I think, well, you haven't had a drink in a long time. You could drink, right? Of course I think that. I'm an alcoholic. But my 2 favorites really are Jim. Jim wants to do a little bit of the work and get all the benefits. You know what that led him to? Resentment. You know what resentment led him to? The idea that if he just put an ounce of whiskey and milk and had it on a full stomach, it would be okay. Crazy. That's me. That's me vacuuming up water that is flowing in. That's me. Crazy. But my friend Fred, what does Fred think? I met people that had a problem they couldn't solve, and I thought, what's wrong with you? You know what Fred is? I got this. And whenever I think I got this, I'm already in trouble. I'm already in trouble. That's why me and my spreadsheet, my clipboard is a dangerous thing. I have had an extraordinary life. I got sober at 26. I've been here now longer than I was alive. Almost 10 years. In May, it'll be 10 years longer in Alcoholics Anonymous without a drink. Not always emotionally sober. God knows that. Without a drink. 10 years longer than I was alive when I got here. That's extraordinary. But I'm not a saint by any stretch. So here's an example of the fake false aspirations. I decide that I'd like a house, a 1-story brick ranch, please God, with an in-ground pool that runs not perpendicular, but parallel to the house so that I could see the water out of a couple different rooms. Oh, and I really do need it to have some extra space so that I can have an art studio because I decide I like to paint. Oh, and I'd like it to be in a place that's not very expensive to buy, and I'd like it to be in a place that's warm, and I'd like it to be in a place where the property taxes aren't high. Oh, and I don't want to be the only Black person, and I would prefer not to have to drive by Confederate flags. Thank you very much. I mean, that's just right. That's what I want. And so when you have that criteria, oh, and let's take into account climate change, which eliminates several states. So I decide I'm going to put my place on the market. We're talking about emotional sobriety. And I tell the woman that sold me the place, hey, I'm thinking about selling. She brings me an offer. I think the offer is real, but I can't really focus because I'm vacuuming up water that's flowing into the basement in Oakland. And I say, okay. A girlfriend calls and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about this offer, but I don't have no place to go. I don't want to be homeless. And she's like, come to where I'm at. We could rent a house together. Oh my God, it's such a bargain. It's so cheap. And I love her and she loves me and I love her family. And let's do that. And it puts me in the South so that I can figure out where in the South to live. Right. But then I get here and, I'm used to living in a space, the space that I create. And I'm a person that believes this space is really, really, really important. Really more important than how I look, which says a lot. Space is really important, right? And so I have to give up living in a house I own. I have to give up being able to control the space. I have to give up a bunch of stuff. And it scares me. It scares me. And what do I have to do? I have to realize, which I'm telling you, this is like 3 days ago. I'm driving along yesterday or the day before, and I realized that the place that I live in, the space that I live in, I've structured it to accrue status to me. Oh, wow. You have a beautiful house. You must be smart. Something like that. It's the crazy show up here, guys. It's the crazy show, right? And I didn't know that. I just thought I liked good space. I thought I liked beautiful. I enjoy beautiful. Whew. If you would like somebody to decorate your space, if you just call me, please, I would love to do it for you. Oh my God, it makes me happy. But what I realize is I've been using it as a high horse, right? I've been using it for status and position and what? I didn't even know that until I gave it up. And then it's like you're in the bed, you don't know it's cold in the room until somebody pulls the blanket off of you. And then when they pull the blanket off, you realize it's cold in the room. That's what happened. And I got to look at it. And I got to say, okay, God, do I think that my value is based on this material thing? Because it is not. Because it is not. And I'm sharing that story to say that we're always maturing, I think, if we're willing to be uncomfortable and take uncomfortable looks at ourselves. If we're willing to follow the fear or the discomfort or the disturbance or the resentment or the anger back. For me, what those things are, they're breadcrumbs. And I can follow them back to a new awakening, a new level of maturity. All right, I'm sure I'm out of time. Okay. I want to say this about depression. If I think about myself long enough, it is depressing. Yeah. If all I do is think about me, it is depressing. See, because I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. And so sometimes we think that we are clinically depressed or we think that we're anxious. And maybe we are, right? Outside help, man, get outside help. Outside help brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous. But sometimes it's really just my self-centeredness. It's my self-seeking. And when I have self-centeredness and self-seeking long enough, it does turn into self-loathing. Why? Because self-will fails every time. So then I'm like, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. That it's when I accept things as they come. Well, that didn't work. That was my best effort and that didn't work. Okay, God, now what? that attitude helps me grow as opposed to sink into depression. I took notes, that's the problem. I want to end on this. Of course, the end of the paper, what Bill talks about is this notion that comes out of the St. Francis prayer, right? That I can stand in one of two places, and I'm going to relate it back to the material world and the spiritual world. In the material world, I can stand in a place that is about me. I want people to shine light. I want people to be kind. I want them to be generous. I want those things. We all do. Or I can begin to expand my capacity to live more and more in connection with the power on a spiritual plane. And from that struggle, from that place of struggle, I can begin to say, okay, God, how are you using me? Okay, God, how can I be useful? Where can I be kind? Where can I be understanding? Where can I be self-centered? Where can use me? And at the center of all of that, every time, is love. At the center of that, every time, is love. I believe that Alcoholics Anonymous is it's a spiritual journey. And spiritual journeys are full of paradoxes. Why? Because we're living in the human dimension, but seeking spiritual connection. And they're two different things. And so, of course, surrender to win. What? But it works, right? Serve others. It's Mother's Day 2 years ago. And I've had this career where I've worked with tens of thousands of young people, and often in like a real surrogate parent relationship, like a real deep connection. And Mother's Day comes, and not one person texts or calls me. Not one. I was feeling a way about that. It's a Sunday morning. I'm getting ready for the 11 o'clock speaker meeting at the Bronx. And all I can think about is all the people that didn't call and how hurt I am and all of what I've done for people. Oh my God, I'm going over and over and over it in my head. And then something, certainly not me, opened my mind. And I realized that was an opportunity to give to other people what I longed for. And I got on my phone and I sent a happy Mother's Day to everybody that I had had any communication with, any woman, for probably 9 months, maybe a year. The gift is to be the blessing that you wish to receive, which is what basically the St. Francis prayer is about. Be the blessing that you long for. And at the center of that is always love. Can I love other people? Can I love myself enough to put aside my selfishness to serve someone else? Because through that, I am always fulfilled. I always find joy that way. I guess I want to end on this. I don't know where I am in time, but I'm out of time. I want to end on this. And I'm super excited to hear from you guys. I really would love to give you two provocations. One provocation is, can you think of where you are right now in your life that is on the material, human realm, and what it would look like if you transcended to see yourself differently on the spiritual realm? Again, the example is, I'm mad at the tenant for talking to the contractor about what worked for his schedule, sir. And that's true in the material realm. On the spiritual realm, the hand of God's in my life. I'm overwhelmed with my blessings. And all I really need to do is bring joy and happiness and love. And God will work it all out. So I want to give you the provocation. Think of an example of some rub, some discomfort, some anger, some fear, some frustration. And think about, is there another place that you can stand that would change your entire perspective? Provocation number 2. If emotional sobriety is really about moving out of what I want to get into what it is I can give, can you think of one place in your life that you can shift from receiver to sender? That you can shift from wanting to get to wanting to give? In my experience, those two things are the core of what's causing my growth these days. The core of what's causing my growth. So that was a little bit all over the place. I'm really, really grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have something to share. And emotional sobriety doesn't mean I'm struck sane. It doesn't mean that my practice is perfect, but it means that I'm willing to show up and tell the truth about where I am, in the hopes that where I am can help you grow. Because that's how I grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Olis. Again, you knocked me out. Every time I hear you speak, I just love what you say. We're at that point where you can now look at the Hollywood squares and see if there's anyone you would like to share.
How many people do I get to pick on?
As many as you want.
Okay. I want to hear from Jimmy. I want to hear from Frank. I want to hear from Deb. I want to hear from
One at a
Mercy.
time. One at a time.
Okay, they know who they are. They can hold on to names. Okay.
Single someone out now.
Come on, Jimmy.
Hey y'all, my name is Jimmy and I am a grateful recovered alcoholic, and the world is a beautiful place because of that. Thank you so much, Olis. I love hearing you. I've missed you. Haven't seen you in a little bit. And we get to this place where we realize, there are no others. When I'm going out to help others, I'm helping myself. That thing that law that I receive by the more that I give. When I'm working with others, I'm only working with myself because there are no others. This whole thing is a connection between God, and this whole thing is God. So when I am helping you, I am helping me. That is the whole thing. We are in this thing together, but I have this thing where I think that I'm at the center of all this self, and this manifestations of self are what defeat me, and I keep getting caught up in this stuff, and it keeps dragging me down, and I keep going back to how it's going to affect me and how it affects me, how it makes me look, how it makes me feel, and I get back in and I get stuck on those trains. And when those trains go, departure and arrival are at the same place. I never go anywhere except for round and round in circles. But when I get back to working with others, you haven't seen me a whole lot of Alice because I've needed some help, so I've been working with other people. That's how I help myself. Go out and work with other people, and that's where I get my heart. That's where I get my love. It's not about the love that I'm getting. It's not about a scorecard anymore. It's not about what you owe me, because you don't owe me anything. It's about what I'm giving out. That is how I win. It's not how many people I get sober. It's how I stay sober. It's me giving out all this stuff, and it's not about the scorecard anymore. And I'll pass with that. Thank you so much, Alice. I love you.
I love you too, Jimmy. Thank you. I love that there are no others. I'm going to try to go boy, girl, and I saw Teresa F here. Teresa?
Hi, my name is Teresa. I'm an alcoholic. I was hoping you didn't see me. That was funny. That was just beautiful. Hit home to certain things for me. I said I was Teresa. I'm an alcoholic, right? Welcome anybody who's new. Please keep coming back. Old timers, thank you for my life. My sobriety date, March 29, 1990. There was a lot of things you said that just really hit me, and I need to chew on. I'm in this place. These are the questions I need to ask myself. I do get caught up in this world, the human realm, the human dimension, what that means, my human experience. And then what is that in the spiritual world? And is there a balance between the two of them? Because sometimes I'm kind of like, I was just talking to Ali about that. How do I live? You know, I know what it is to live in each one separately and distinctly, but what is that like in between both worlds? One of the, we're calling it Healy's Keel, or Superman can't handle kryptonite. I think for me that one area is financial insecurity. That whenever that comes up for me, it rocks my world, right? It rocks me off emotionally, spiritually, mentally, because that's something that exists in this dimension, in the physical dimension. Every decision is based on that. That's an energetic vibration that navigates through this dimension of the human world. And to discount that, to me, would be ignorance. And so when I get caught up in what I believe, and I have witnessed in my experience that is necessary to live in the human dimension, is something that is not as tangible to me as I believe it is to others, no? But yet it comes in the spiritual way, which is very interesting. If I just live, you know what I mean, and connect to the spiritual realm, then all that stuff works out. But it's a conundrum, right? You can't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add, 2 and 2 or whatever, don't make 4. And I always I'm the clipboard person. I want it to make sense. I want it to go in order. And when it isn't, I get driven by self. I get into self-pity. I get into depression. I get into sadness. And then I end up feeling hopeless. But the one thing that, if anything, propels me, right, that shifts me, is my sobriety is something that I must preserve. It's about the preservation of my sobriety. And because it's really about the preservation of that, then I have to find the answer to not so much what I can get, but what is it I can give? Because that is the foundation to everything. But the steps help me to look at what's standing in the way of that, right? What are these defects of character that's coming up that has me so selfish and self-centered? To admit that, to see that, and then ask for that to be removed, so that now I can enter the world of spirit and be in the presence of now and have an attitude of gratitude and appreciation for all that is. And I do grow up emotionally. I do become emotionally mature. And I also need to be okay when I'm not there. And I think that is one thing that I have found to also be a part of the preservation of my sobriety. If you're new, is I heard you're as sick as your secrets. And I don't ever want to pretend when I'm either in between those worlds or unsure of them. I want to be able to say, this is where I'm at right now. But as long as I continue to do what's necessary, get back to me later and I'll let you know where I've grown from that. You know what I'm saying? But you touch me. I love you. Thank you. I'm standing in front of the supermarket. I didn't even go inside the supermarket. I'm like, I'm wait. I got to hear all of this without any distractions. I love you dearly. Can't wait for us to hang out, chit chat some more. Thank you guys. Thank you for calling on me, Olis. Love you.
I love you, baby. I love you. Joel, would you be so kind as to share?
Oh, boy. Every time I hear someone like you share, and I know a lot of really great speakers at AA, I feel like I'm in spiritual kindergarten. That I got so much catching up to do. Why do I feel like such a buffoon? One of the things that occurred to me, it hit me a few months ago. I heard Herb K talk about something that I was holding very dear to my heart. And that was something Don told me when I asked him, Don Pritz, I asked him to be my sponsor after he made this statement. He says, we are not human beings trying to have a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Well, I heard Herb K say that maybe it's both. Maybe it's both. Sometimes I'm a human being trying to have a spiritual experience, and sometimes I can feel like I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. So that was like the conundrum you were talking about, I think. How to integrate my spiritual life into into this third dimension. You know, it's just, again, I feel like I'm in spiritual kindergarten. Before you came on, I got so pissed off because I just bought this T-shirt for this sweatshirt for $50. And it turns out to be, it's flimsy. It was advertised as fleece. There's no fleece in it. It's not warm. It's thin as hell. You know, and I was pissed off. I felt ripped off. And then I realized, how important is it? You know, I can material things, money, mood changes, man. Real big mood changes. Thanks for calling on me. I also saw Ronald.
Thank you.
His name is in here somewhere.
I-
Ronald, why don't
Is
you
he
come
still
on up?
here?
I don't
Ronald,
know.
are you still here? I didn't see him or Frank in the list of participants anymore.
He may have logged out. Okay, you could call on more people, or you can go to a show of hands.
I'd love a show of hands.
Okie dokie. Mary, you're
Mary?
first.
Hi, everybody. My name's Mary. I'm a grateful alcoholic. I am so glad I came here. I love you, Olis. I love hearing your inspiration. So I took a bunch of notes. The first thing that hit me is, why am I freaking disturbable? Because that's where I go. It took me so long, and you taught me I had to let go of outcomes. I had to let go of my sanity being hinged on what was going to happen. And you know, I have a daughter, 30-year-old daughter, who's in the grips of this disease. And it's the hardest thing I've ever been through. And she came to visit me 2 weekends ago. And you know, I have to be loving and kind and understanding and not be judgmental, you know. And we went out to dinner, we went out to breakfast, and she drank the whole time. And the most important thing that I can do is to understand that she has a right to her own experiences if she decides she has to do it, and she's got her own higher power. It's not easy, but I have to live in the spiritual and let go of the material and let go of that the definition that you gave me tonight was just off the charts. You know, I can go on, but I can't wait to do this little exercise. And I just want to thank you so much for being here, and I love your inspiration. And I'm just going to keep trudging. Love you.
Consonants.
Hi, I'm Constance. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Olis, for your share. I'm from Oakland, and I've seen you share many times. And I used to work in the same place you did. I retired. And anyway, I'm so grateful for what you said tonight. I just had to share. I hardly ever share in this meeting, but as I was pumping water too out of my basement, but luckily I found some help, and they showed me how to pump it out with a pump and a garden hose. It's a lot easier than with that pack thing, especially when it's raining, and it keeps raining. But I needed, God is in the room today because I needed to hear everything you said about the material world and the spiritual world, because for years in Alcoholics Anonymous, I still lived in the material world. I was convinced that if I had money, property, and prestige, that I would be okay. And that is just the biggest illusion that I had. And I can't tell you all the time I wasted. But and I too have tenants in Oakland. That's not easy. And I have learned so much from them on being disturbed, or why am I disturbable? I love what you said. I mean, you were talking to me. And so I want to thank you for your share. And I want to just say one other thing, that more than anything in the world, that I want to live in the spiritual today. I do. I do. I want to live in that spiritual world. And I ask God every day to have me be willing to give up some of the things that I still think I can go back and think that I just have to have, or maybe, or to use those things to help others. Thank you.
Mark, will you come up? And also people, would you lower your hand after you finish? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alice. What a great share. Emotional sobriety, that's always been my journey in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, God, when I was totally emotionally broken, God brought me into the rooms of Codependence Anonymous in 1988. And after 16 years there, one of God's angels brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous. And if God wakes me up tomorrow, I'll have 18 years without any alcohol or any other mood-altering substance. And for that, I am so grateful, and I know not grateful enough. But at any rate, you know, as I said, you know, I have that thirst too. You know, I suffer from the allergy that whenever I drink, and you know, you started at 3, I believe. I started at 4 or 5 when I drank some wine at the family gathering, and I was off to the races. I got drunk, and every time we gathered as a family and there was wine, I went for it, and it just continued. But you know, it was because I was restless, irritable, and discontented as a child, and I have been that way all throughout my life, not knowing it was untreated alcoholism. The greatest gift of Alcoholics Anonymous for me has been the awareness of my alcoholism that I've been suffering from all my life. And with that awareness, I now have a choice, and the choice is God rather than alcohol or any other mood-altering substance. What a wonderful journey. And it is all in the spiritual. There's no doubt about it for me. And I'm just going to end with this one thing. You know, I've had many, in these years in 12-step recovery, I've had many spiritual experiences. And one that I had the other day, which is so profound, and that was, I was on the elliptical exercise while I was doing it. And you know, I always go to fear. That's my default, fear and catastrophe. And what I ended up saying is that God is with me now, and all is well. I have to stay in now, and I have to know that God is with me, and then all is well. Thank you for letting me share. God bless you all.
Well, if I don't see any hands, I know names, and I'm going to call on Ali. Ali, I know you logged on, unless it's just your name. Okay. Any other names? Okay, before we close, Alice, did you think of anything you may have forgotten that you'd like to add before we close?
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you guys for all of the love. Thank you for the opportunity to carry the message as I understand it out of the book.
Well, I see a really old, great friend of mine. He didn't put his name, it just says iPhone. But Jimmy, will you come up? You know, turn it on and say hello. Put your volume on. Jimmy's a little bit, you know, techie. He's got a problem with tech stuff. I love you, Jimmy. I saw your face, man. You're looking good.
Can
I
can the
see
host unmute him?
your lips moving, but I don't hear your voice. He's
Oh,
technically.
you know why?
There we go.
I think I had the speaker off.
How
Joe,
you
you know
doing?
I love you, man.
You're
You've
my
been
oldest.
you've been my sponsor for
sponsor.
the past 25 years. You know that.
Yeah, you're the first guy I took through the work, and it's the proof is in the pudding. It works when you use the book. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, you've been my sponsor for the past 25 years. And I want to just thank the young lady for speaking. You know how I am. Sometimes it's appropriate to say, sometimes it's not appropriate.
What happened to the sound? You cut out again, Jimmy.
I think
wanted to-
tonight, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
I think tonight, the young lady spoke well, and I am the disease and the alcoholic. So, sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree. Sometimes I say things need to be said, and sometimes I say, should I be the one to say it at this particular time?
You cut out again.
Because I know I'm not a big book thumper. I'm not a big book person. I got experience on my life. I got experience in my life, I'm 82 now, so I've got to experience life on life's terms. You know what I mean? I can't actually come from the book because I don't live by the book.
Yes, you do. You just don't
I
know
live
it.
I live a spiritual life, Joe. And the 11th step taught me that, sought through prayer and meditation to improve my consciousness. I've been, for 50 years, I was under the influence of alcohol and other stuff. And today, being conscious, my search is a lot broader and wider than when I was young. And the 11th step teaches me to go on that journey, and I'm on a journey. So, and it's a spiritual journey, and different books teach you different things, and I'm on that journey. So I'm not here to criticize or to doubt anybody because I know that I'm an alcoholic, and sometimes I'm self-centered and full of but I
Jimmy,
know the truth about that.
Jimmy, I've always loved sharing with you because it's one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic. Our hearts and souls connect when we share. And I think that's the basis of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Well, that's what you taught me, to be honest and to be honest with myself. The biggest thing, I have to be honest with myself. And once I can learn to be honest with myself, I can learn to be honest with other people, and I can share on them with a honest level, but that's just the sharing experience. I'm not telling them what to do or how to do or when to do. I'm just sharing my experience with them, and that's going to be entirely up to them to come to their own conclusion, But I love you, Joe. I love you, Joe.
Too, and
Believe me,
you're a power
my
of the
life, listen, my life is a wonderful life. And I understood everything that young lady was saying, and I experienced it. And at this particular age, you could talk and see that when I look at emotional sobriety, whoo, all I come up with most of my life, I've been an AS. I've been a big asshole. Because now I could see it and I could be honest with myself and I could face the truth about it. And that's not always easy, because I tell you one thing, AA hasn't been a wonderful, pleasant trip for me. It's been a very painful journey. It's been a very painful journey because I have to take a good look at myself and be true to myself. If I'm gonna be honest with anybody else, I have to be true to myself first. I have to be able to tell myself the truth first. And once I learn how to tell myself the truth first, because I'm an alcoholic, and I've used a lot of excuses in the past to cover up the truth. And I'm not a young guy, but it's been painful to take a look at that journey, you know. And I know when I speak with everybody, the one thing I know, there are many stories in AA. And if you listen really close to them, you'll be able to see and understand the pain underneath every one of those stories. And every one of those stories tell you you're no different from anybody else. Black, white, green, gray. Pain is pain. So everybody has a different story. They have a different mountain to climb. And the only thing I could do is wish them the best trip on their journey. And for those that are counting days, trust me, stay on the bus. Stay on the bus.
Thank you,
Because one
Jimmy.
day you'll be able to get off.
Thank you, Jimmy. We got to talk more often.
Okay, Joe.
All right.
Thanks. I appreciate you
We're
for
at
calling
that
my
point.
name.
We're at that
And thanks,
point.
young ladies, for letting me hear you
Alice,
share. I love
Alice.
your story. I really felt it. Joel, I'm out.
Okie doke. We're at that point in the meeting that we don't close with any traditional way other than we go into our inner room and we say a prayer or meditate for a few minutes, and then we'll thank the speaker.